Well, I'm a sucker for beautiful colors and beautiful stuff. In this case, when I see my Peranakan teapots, I just want to sketch it. Let's go! Peranakan refers to the Straits Chinese, well, actually other races as well, but the Straits Chinese that has settled in this part of Asia, Southeast Asia, probably for more than 500 years. So they have kind of have a unique culture that they have developed over the years. Part of it is this beautiful stuff, potteries and teapots and so on and so forth. So looking at this sketch, I'm going to use my trusty fountain pen loaded with watercolor, and well, there's some remnant black ink in it, so it comes out a little bit blacker than I wanted it, but it doesn't matter. It's just a sketch to outline it. Again, you're striving for the macro broad shape, accuracy, and actually you can ignore the micro accuracy or the details if you like. It's all about having a semblance of the teapot, a semblance of the shape, going for very, very broad shape, very, very broad, identifiable teapots. The specific detail doesn't quite matter because ultimately, when you are having a macro right but micro wrong, it comes out beautiful. As you finish up the sketch, all you're trying to do is to make sure the proportion is roughly believable. It doesn't even have to be accurate, it just has to be believable. Remember, your audience is looking at it and they need to believe there are two teapots. That's it. Then you have done your job. So at this point, I just take a step back, put in my name, and wait for the ink to dry before I proceed to the next stage of painting. Watercolor requires a lot of patience. It really does, and it requires you to wait for the ink to dry or the patch of water to dry before you proceed. Otherwise, you'll be smudging things everywhere. As I paint, I'm very conscious of the highlight and shadow. I'm just striving for very basic three-tone, highlight, middle value, and the dark shadow, if you like. If I can get those three tones, the form of the teapots will look slightly three-dimensional. That's all I'm aiming for, nothing more than that. At this point, my strategy is quite straightforward. I'm putting in the bronze color consisting of quinacridone gold and quinacridone burnt orange. And in combination, those two drop in a little bit of French ultramarine to make it a bit darker. All the time trying to avoid green, but when things looks a bit green, you drop in a bit of a complementary to green, which is red. In this case, I drop in permanent alizarin crimson to kind of just ungreen it a little bit, and that will be my darker tone for the bronze. And also to make it more interesting and to make it more brighter in the bronze, I would drop in pure quinacridone burnt orange or quinacridone gold. When you drop in the pure color, they look absolutely magnificent, beautiful actually. At this point, I'm just trying to take a break and put in a bit of the shadow colors. It's not really reality. I'm making the shadow up somewhat. But as you can see, the shadows are on the right hand side. I do a bit of splatter to create a bit of texture and to create a bit of interesting sort of feel to the sketch. It doesn't look too clean in that sense. I don't like sketch that's too clean. That's just not my style. I mean, we all need to find a balance of what we would like it to be, clean or splatter. Some people just can't stand splatter, and that's okay. If that's your style, stick to your own visual signature. But for me, I just love those splatter. So now I'm going in to put in the color that attracted me in the first place, this turquoise blue-green, if you like. And it also, activate the color on my palette, which is a cobalt teal, which is on my far right top corner of the palette. The way I do it is that I have a light version of the color to create the middle tone, and then for the darker version, I mix in a bit of French ultramarine to create a bit of a shadowy color to create a form of the teapot. As you can see, I leave a lot of white in the sketch. You know, partly some of the reflection, partly because I just want, you know, it's a form of texturing. Leaving white is texturing. You could go in with a big brush and just wipe everything in one swipe color, you know, but you could draw with it and leave lots of holes and white, thereby creating all kinds of interest in that sense. Now I'm moving to the blue. I don't have the exact blue. It looks more like a phthalo blue. I don't have that on my palette, so I'm mixing between French ultramarine, which is a bit on the warmer side, plus cobalt, to bring it back towards neutral, and that becomes the blue that I'm using. I drop in a bit of permanent alizarin crimson, which makes it a bit purplish for the darker shape. So between the paper white, the blue that I mix, and the darker shadow colors of this blue, I create a bit of a form, making it pop a little bit more three-dimensional. If you recall, in one of my earlier video, I talk about stacking of shapes. So I'm stacking two different teapots, one in front of the other. And what are you sketching here? Well, you're sketching space. The space between the two teapots is what you're sketching when you're stacking shape and stacking objects one in front of the other. You can kind of sense the space. Although in a two-dimensional sketch like this, you can't quite measure in inch or centimeter the exact distance between the two, but you can sense the space, and that is actually an interesting way of depicting three-dimensional form in a two-dimensional piece of paper. And since it's actually just a sketch, I'm almost done. I'm putting in a bit more of a shadow, a bit more of a detail, shadow underneath the bronze pieces, and just to make them pop a little bit. You can see that it kind of works out quite well. So that's it for this sketch. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I think this is one of the fun sketch that you could do. I will leave a link to the photograph below in the description so that you can try it as well. So I hope you stay safe wherever you are. Whee Teck out.